So in this online class, we are going to discuss operator overloading. The same thing what we have discussed in the last class, last offline class. Anyway, we are going to have a revision on what is operator overloading, and I'm going to explain you the remaining slides which I left you in the last class. Fine. So in this online class, we are going to discuss operator overloading. So what is operator overloading? Okay. We are going to provide a special meaning to your operators, the symbols. Okay. So that term we call it as operator overloading. Okay. As you are seeing this line, we have this plus operator. This plus operator is normally used to perform addition. Okay, if this plus operator is used in between strings, then it will concatenate two strings. Okay, so similarly, I'm going to use the very same operator plus to call a function. Okay, I'm going to provide a special meaning to this operator. Okay, not only this plus operator, the other operators like minus, multiplication, division, even power symbol, fine, as we know, a less than or greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. If you are going to provide a special meaning, if you are going to use the operator to call a function or to provide a special meaning, okay, we are going to use the operator in different way. Okay, so which we call it as operator overloading. Okay, so this feature in Python that allows the same operator to have different meaning according to the context is called operator overloading. So we are going to give a special meaning. We are going to provide a different task to this operator, which we call it as operator overloading. Fine. Okay, so the same thing I have explained this slide also. Normally this place operator is used, if it is used in between two values, that will add two numbers, whereas this place operator is, if it is used between two strings, then it will concatenate, it will join two strings. Okay, this with the same operator plus I'm going to call a function. Okay, I'm going to call a function which is defined inside a class. That term, that context, which we call it as operator overloading. Fine. So before going to learn the program written in operator overloading, we should know some built-in special functions, which we call it as constructors. Okay. So normally, you know what is a function. What is a function? As we know, there are two main things that we need to consider when we use function. One is function declaration and function calling. Okay. Normally, all the functions will be called with its name. Okay, but with respect of this operator overloading, we are going to call the function with this plus. Okay, with this operators, it can be a plus or minus or multiplication or division or less than or greater than or less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. Fine, we are going to provide a special meaning to this. Okay, we are going to use this operator in a different way. Instead of adding or instead of concatenating two strings, we are going to use this operator in a different way, which we call it as operator overloading. Okay, so before going to that one, we should know the special functions that we can use in Python. What are all the special functions? That is, special functions are nothing but the constructors. So when can we call? Constructor is also a different type of a function. Okay, normally how we call a function with its name. Normally, constructor also will be called by its, okay, not by its name. Actually, the constructors will be called when an object is initialized for a class. Right? As we are seeing this slide, this we have two functions, that is init. Okay, this init of constructor which is used for initialization. And what about this adder function? Adder function which is used for adding two objects. Okay, so we'll understand more when we discuss this with a program. Fine. So as you're seeing this slide, we have a init function. So this constructor, this special function is used for initialization. Okay. As you're seeing the description, it is used to initialize the attributes of the object. It is used to initialize the attributes of the object. And what about this string? Str function. Str function which is used to return a string representation in case if you want to return a string representation, a string value, okay, as an object from function definition to function calling, then you can use this str function. And what about this len of function, which is used to return the length of the object? Okay, normally this length of function which will return the number of characters, that is, okay, the number of alphabets that is present in a string. Okay, so we have this len of function len of function is also okay, underscore underscore, that is double underscore len of, then double underscore. So in this way only you need to use the special function constructor. Okay, so what is the constructor? Constructor is a special function that will be called automatically when an object is initialized for a class, when an object is created for the class. And what are all the different? Okay, so in Python only we can use different 100 plus, more than 100 plus built-in constructors, built-in special function, whereas it is not even applicable in other programming language. Fine. In other programming language, we have only few, whereas Python is having okay more than 100 plus special constructors, special functions. Fine. So as you are seeing here, we have init of function. It is also a special function which is used for initialization. And what about str? This str will return the string of the object. If you want to return a string value from the function definition to the function call, and then you can use this function str of. Fine. And len of function, which as you know, it will return the length of the string. It will return the length of the object. Okay, and what about the last one, add of function? So this add of or even sub of or null of or true div of. Okay, for division we use the constructor names true div. Okay, so this add of function. Okay, so normally we'll write all the function with its name. Okay, only we'll write if your function name is function one, we write function one. Whereas this constructor has to be returned with, okay, it should begins with double underscore and ends with double underscore. Whereas the function name has to be written in between these two underscores. Fine. And what about this call? It will call objects of the class like a normal function. If you want to call a function with this call a function, we can call that call objects of the class like a normal function. Fine. Okay, so we are going to see what are all the different constructors, special functions that we can use it in this operator overloading. As I told you, what is operator overloading? We are going to use the very same symbol, okay, for different tasks. Instead of adding, if you take plus, okay, this operator, instead of adding and concatenating, we are going to use this very same operator for a different purpose. Fine, let's see how we can use it. Here we have, these are all the, okay, these are all built-in constructor. Okay, add, sub, mul, power. So, but from the name itself, you can tell that what this function will do. What is adder function? Adder function will add two objects, whereas subper function will subtract two objects value. Fine. Whereas power of will do the power for two objects. And what about true division? True division will divide p. Okay, will divide two objects. Okay. So in case if you want to call this add special function, okay, in the function calling you have to use like this. As I told you, this initialization is used for initializing the value. This constructor will be called when the object is created with the initial value inside the class, right? And the remaining constructor has to be called with operator. In case if you are going to call this add constructor, then you need to use plus. In case if you want to call subtractor, okay, sub constructor, then you need to use the symbol minus. So this minus symbol will call subtractor, that is sub constructor. And what about this power, that is pow, okay, POW. So when it will be called once, okay, once you have called this constructor with the symbol double asterisk, okay. And whereas this true div, when it will be called when you use this divide symbol in your function call. Okay, so initialization is a constructor that will be called automatically once the object is initialized with once the object is created for a class, and inside the class you need to pass a value. Okay, that's how this init constructor will be called. Whereas the remaining constructor will be called whenever there is a function calling with the symbol plus, minus, or double asterisk, and even division symbol. We have more constructors, that is LT, LT, LE, EQ, NE, GT, and G. What are all these? These are all constructors. Okay, whenever a function, a word starts and ends with this double underscore, okay, double underscore, we call that as a special function. Okay, so how it will be called, how this constructor LT will be called whenever you use this symbol less than, okay, and P1 or P1 and P2 are nothing but objects. When you use this symbol less than in your function calling, then automatically this constructor LG will be called. Whenever you use double equal to, it will call this function, EQ. Whenever you use this greater than symbol, what constructor will be called? This constructor GT. So you need to write a definition with this constructor GT. What about this P1 and P2? P1 and P2 is not a normal variables, whereas P1 and P2 are objects. Fine. So here we have P1 less than P2. So whenever the compiler or the interpreter sees this line less than, okay, P1 and P2 are objects and less than, whenever it sees this symbol less than, it will call this LT function. It will move on to execute the function of LT. The LT is nothing but a predefined, like a special function, okay, predefined function, or we can say constructor. Fine. Whereas when it will be called LE function, okay, whenever you use this symbol less than or equal to, and when this one will be called EQ, this constructor will be called whenever you use this symbol double equal to. Okay, now we are going to see an example with this, okay, so that you can understand all these special functions of constructor very well. Fine. Here we have a class, and the class name is my class. Okay, and inside this my class I have used two special functions. One is initialization constructor and another one is add constructor. Fine. When you see this initialization from the name itself we can tell, okay, if it is initialization constructor, that function is mainly used for initializing the values of variables. That constructor is mainly used for variable initialization. Fine. Okay, when you see the second constructor add, so what it will do, this add of function will add two object. Okay, it will add two object. Okay, we'll see one by one. Here we have a class, my class, and this one is initialization. Def double underscore initialization double underscore. Okay, so whenever you see this double underscore at the front and end, okay, we can say that it is a special function. Fine. And so here we have self comma a. Okay, so as I told you, all the functions that is defined inside the class should have this word, should have this keyword self. Why? See, normally we can create an objects for a class. Okay, in order to identify each object uniquely. Okay, and the variables and functions that is used inside the class will be uniquely represent to each object. Okay, so that's why in order to identify each object uniquely, and the values should be very unique for each object. Okay, so the values for each object will be stored, will be assigned separately, whereas each object will have different values for the same variable that is used in the class. Fine. So def double underscore init of self comma a, and self dot a equal to a. Fine. What is the use of this self dot? I am assigning this a value to this current object. Self meaning this current object. So I am assigning a value to this current object. Okay, we'll see now what is the syntax to create an object for a class? Object 1. Okay, any name can be given for a object creation. So object 1 equal to my class of 10. Now object is created. So normally what is the syntax for object creation? Object name equal to class name of, that's it. But then it is a constructor. Okay, it will be called automatically once an object is created. So what is this initialization constructor? Initialization constructor is used for initializing the value. Fine. So that's why I am passing 10 for the object 1. For the object 1, I am passing 10 to the initialization constructor. See here. So definition initialization self comma a. By default, all the functions of a class will have this keyword self, and after that self will be using the remaining parameters. Now I need to assign only one value, that is a, so that has to be given here. Fine. So this 10 value will be passed from here to the initialization constructor. Now the a will have 10, and what is the need to write this code? I am telling the compiler that this object a value is 10. Self dot a equal to a meaning is I am assigning the value of a equal to 10 to this current object. What is the current object now? That is object 1. That is obj1. So for the object obj1, the value of a is The variable's value is 10. Okay. Now it is over. See the second one. I'm creating the second object. So object 2 equal to my class of 50. So now again it will call the initialization constructor. Fine. So second object is created. Now I am passing the value 50. For the first time I have passed 10, and for the second time I am passing 50. Okay. Now what is the value of a now? That is 50. Okay. So now here see self dot a equal to a. So what it will do now, I am assigning a equal to 50 for the object 2, obj 2. For the object 1, what is the a value? That is 10. Okay, for the object 2, what is the a value? That is 50. Fine. So the values of a is different for each object. So that's why we need to use this keyword self. Fine. Okay, now see all assignments, all initialization is over now for different objects. So for object 1, I have assigned the value of a as 10. For the object 2, I have assigned the value of a is equal to 50. Now see the third statement. I am just adding the two objects, object 1 dot object 2. As I told you, these objects, okay, so these special functions add, sub, mul will, okay, if you take add function, it will add two objects. What about sub? It will subtract two objects. What about objects? If P1 and P2 are the objects that is created for a particular class. Fine. See here. Now see here. I have returned object 1 dot object 2. So this plus is a function call. So what it will call? It will call this function add. Okay. In case if you have written minus here, and if you have another function def underscore sub underscore self. Okay, so now what function will be called? If we have used this minus symbol, it will call this function. Since I have this plus symbol, object 1 plus object 2, it will call this adder function. Okay, so see here, this adder function is called now self and other. So what is this self comma other? So it will, this object 1 will be passed to self and object 2 will be passed to another. Okay, it can also be reversed. Self can be object 2 and other can be object 1. Okay, based on the compiler, these objects will be assigned to these two variables, these two keywords, self and other. Instead of other, you can also give some other value, but instead of self, we cannot give any other word. It is self. Always the function will have this keyword self, comma, any other variable name. Since I need to get two object values, I need to have two arguments inside this adder function. So now what it will do, object 1 will be object, all the values of object 1 will be passed to this self and all the values of object 2 will be passed to another. Okay. Now actually what is the value of object 1? Object 1, a value is actually 10. Okay. And object 2, a value is actually 50. Okay. Object 1 a value is 10 and object 2 a value is 50. So what it will do? Self dot a plus other dot a. So it will add 10 plus 50. Okay. Self dot a is nothing but this one and another dot, because since I am passing object 1 values to self and the values of object 2 is actually passed to this variable name another. Instead of another, you can also give another name. A. You can also give B or X or Y. Any variable name can also be given for this another, for this parameter. Okay. And finally, we'll get 60 here. That is 10 plus 50. Adding the value of two objects, that is object 1 and object 2, will give you 60. Okay. So return 60. So what is the use of this return keyword? This return will return the values from the definition, from the function definition to function calling. Where you have called the function, here you have called this function. So this return value will be returned back to, okay, will be returned here. So we will have the value as some value as 60. Okay, when you run this code, you will have the output as 60. Right? Okay, let me explain you another one example. See here, we have a class 1. And three constructors, three special functions are defined. First one is initialization constructor and second one is add constructor and multiply constructor. Okay. And after that line, we can see that two different two different objects are created for this class. Object 1 equal to class 1 of 10. Okay, so for this class I have created object 1, and again next object, that is object 2, is also created for this class 1. Right, now while creating the object I am passing this value 10. Okay, so for object 1, what is the a value? That is 10. Okay, for object 1, what is the a value? That is 10. What is the value of a for object 2? That is 20. Fine. Values are passed to different objects and it is assigned to the variable a. Now, okay, so this curve, this initialization constructor will work. I'm just assigning this a to this current. Okay, to this current object. Self.a meaning is assigning value of a to this current. Okay, object. What is the, okay, if I am calling this initialization with object 1, that this, what is the current object? It is object 1. Okay, if I am calling that function with object 2, what is the current object? Object 2. Fine. Fine. So values of a is assigned with 10 for object 1 and 20 for object 2. Okay, now see, we have another two functions, that is add of mallof. So when it will be called, when these functions will be called, add function will be called when we use this plus symbol in the function calling. When we use multiplication, okay, this mallof function will be called. See, after creating the object, see the next two lines, some value comma object 1 plus object 2. Now these two objects, object 1 and object 2, are objects of this class 1, and these two objects are added with this operator plus. Okay, by seeing this plus operator, which function will be called? Add of function will be called. See the next line, object 1 into object 2. Now which will be called? Multiplication will be called, because since we have this operator multiply. Okay, so this concept is called operator overloading. So what is operator overloading? We are providing, okay, we are using the very same operator for different purpose, for calling a function. Okay, we are providing a special meaning to operator. Instead of doing only the arithmetic operation and concatenation, we are using this operator for a different purpose. Okay, so that's why these operators are called as operator overloading. Fine. So when it sees this symbol into, it will call this mallof function. And what about this parameters inside the add of function and mallof function? Self will have all the values of object 1 and other will have all the objects of, all the values of object 2. Okay, we are adding both the values of object 1 and object 2 and returning to the place where it is called. Okay, same as mallof function will also acquire the values of object 1 and object 2 a value. It will acquire the value of a from object 1 and object 2. Self will have the value of object 1 and other will have the value of object 2. And both the values are multiplied and returned. Since we have a return statement here, it will return all the values to the place where it is called. Okay, so you'll have this is the output for this code, some value equal to 30, multiply value equal to 200. Okay, now we are going to see the next example also. So see here we have a class 1 and class 1, and see 4 different functions are defined here. What are all the 4 functions? First one is the initialization, add, sub, and lt. What is this lt? Less than. Okay, whenever it sees this symbol less than, it will call this function less than. Okay, 2 objects are created, object 1 and object 2, and values 10 and 20 is passed. Okay, so for object 1 we'll have the value of a as 10 and object 2 the value of a is 20. Okay, and see here I'm just displaying the object name, object 1.a, object 2.a. When you display, you'll have the object value 10 and 20. Okay, after that I'm doing 3 operations. One is addition, subtraction, and less than. Okay, when I use object 1 plus object 2, it will call this function. Okay, self will have object 1 values and other will have object 2 values, and both the values of a in object 1 and 2 will be added and returned to the place where it is called. So we'll have the sum is 30. Okay, so the difference is, see, object 1 minus object 2. So by seeing this operator, it will call this subtractor function. Okay, by seeing this less than symbol, it will call this LT, less than. Okay, which value is less than? 10 or 20? 10 is less than. Okay, we are checking 10 is less than 20. Yes, actually 10 is less than 20. So it will return true Boolean values. Normally, condition checking will return always, it will return the boolean values. Okay, either true or false. So what value will be returned from this place? That is true. Okay, now we are going to do a practical session. See, after this class, we are going to write a simple operator overloading program in Colab, run it, take the screenshot and upload it in the GCR. Okay, let me explain you a simple program in operator overloading. Okay, I'm going to open klab.karma.edu. Okay, I'm going to open a new file. So the first thing, you need to create a class. Okay, so I'm going to give the very same. Okay, class is defined. You know how to provide a class, right? Class name. Okay, ends with simple. Fine. Now I am going to define the special function. The first function is init. Okay. So this init function normally which is used to, it is underscore, double underscore, not only single underscore, it should be double underscore of self. Okay, self. Initially I am going to give only okay, I am going to give only this thing. Okay, self. Inside this I am going to assign say for example self a equals to a, as well as I am going to provide another one value self dot b is equal to b. Okay, I am going to get two different values a and b comma a. Since I am assigning a and b values to self, okay, I have used two parameters here. Fine. Okay, now this function is over. Now I'm going to define another one function, def of multiply. Okay, add. Let me give a simple example. Add underscore underscore self self. Okay, self comma. I'm going to give another one variable. Say x. Okay, x and so return of self comma a plus x dot a. Okay, so we are going to add both the values. So what I'm going to do is return is return. Yes. I think a is enough, not no need of b. Okay, def of underscore underscore add self comma x. Fine. So now two constructors are Okay, declare here. One is initer function and another one is adder function. Fine. And we have what is this? What the use of this initer function? We will do the initialization. Okay, it will initialize the value of a. And what about this adder function? Adder function is used to add two different objects. Okay, it is used to add the values of two different objects. Fine. Now, class definition, that is class declaration, is over. The other thing, we need to create objects for this class. I'm going to create the object name is object 1 equal to class 1 of, okay, 10. I'm going to create three different objects. Okay. Okay, 2 is an object 2 is equal to class 1 of 40. Okay, so two different objects are created, object 1 and object 2. I am passing values 10 and 40 from the from the object creation to the initialization constructor. Fine. And after that, I am going to use print. Okay, print some value equal to object 1 plus okay, let me run this code and we'll check whether it is running or not. We get the sum value equal to 50. Right? Like instead of this, if you want to know, okay, if you are going to add another one function underscore underscore multiply underscore underscore is self comma, okay, y. I'm going to give another one object as y. Okay, return. So what this null constructor will do, it will return after multiplying two different objects. Okay, self dot a into y dot a. Okay, so now we have written the definition for this null constructor and we need to print it. Multiplied by this, comma, object 1 into object 2. Okay, now let's call this function. Okay, multiplied values, because 10 into 40 is 400. The values are the two different object values are multiplied and displayed here. Okay, let me write uh, another one function. Let me write greater than gt. Okay, greater than should symbol should be like this. So greater than self comma z. Guys, kindly mute your audio. Someone have unmute your audio. Check it and mute the audio. Return fine self dot a greater than, okay, self, that is z dot a. Okay, greater value, greater value, comma, object 1 less than, sorry, greater than object 2. So what value it will return? It will return either true or false, because 10 is actually not greater than 40. It is actually less than 40. So we are getting the output as greater value is false. Okay. In case if you are going to write another one, okay, another one function, that is def, underscore underscore equal to. We are going to check whether both the values are equal to. Okay, equal to self comma s. Okay, self comma s, return self self dot a equal to self, sorry, s dot a. Okay, s dot a. I'm checking the objects of self and s, because object 1 will be assigned, all the values of object 1 will be assigned to self, and all the objects of object, sorry, all the values of object 2 will be assigned to s. Fine. So we need to write it here. Print equal or not, equals or not, comma, and we need to write this as object 1 equal to object 2. Okay. So what output will get? See here, when you run this code, you'll have equals is false. Actually, 10 is not equal to 40. Okay, if you have given both the values are same, say if you have given 40, okay, run this code, you'll get the output as true. Okay, you'll get the output as true. Why? Because both the values are same. Okay, so these two, okay, these two, like, that is greater than and double equal to will return you boolean values, whereas this will return some integer values. Okay, so this is the difference between add function, mul, true division, or even power function. Okay, these functions that is greater than, equal to, or less than or equal to will return you only the boolean values, either true or false. It will check both the objects value and return whether it is true or false. Fine. So these are about the operator overloading.